Hello, friends. Welcome back to another cozy bedtime story. I'm so happy you're here. Before we begin tonight's journey, if you enjoy relaxing sleep stories, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me create more peaceful stories for you every week. Now, turn down the lights if you can. Get comfortable. Wrap yourself in your favorite blanket. Close your eyes if you'd like. Take one slow, deep breath in. And gently breathe out. Again. Breathe in. And breathe out. Feel your body becoming lighter. Let your shoulders relax. Let every worry from today slowly drift away. There is nowhere you need to be. Nothing you need to do. For the next little while, there is only this story, the gentle sound of my voice, and a peaceful journey waiting just for you. So, take one final deep breath. Relax. And let tonight's story begin. The first light of dawn slowly spread across the rooftops of ancient Rome, painting the clay tiles in soft shades of gold and amber. The city had not fully awakened yet. A cool morning breeze wandered through the narrow stone streets, carrying the scent of fresh bread, olive trees, and damp earth left behind by the night. Long before the crowded markets and busy workshops came to life, Rome belonged to quieter sounds. Birds perched on marble columns welcomed the sunrise with gentle songs. Water flowed endlessly through stone fountains, brought into the city by magnificent aqueducts that had carried fresh mountain water for countless miles. A baker was already awake. Inside a small neighborhood bakery, a fire burned steadily beneath a large clay oven. Fresh loaves rested on wooden boards while warm steam drifted into the cool morning air. The rich smell of newly baked bread slowly spread through the empty streets, becoming one of the first signs that another peaceful day had begun. Nearby, wooden shutters opened one after another. Families welcomed the morning light into their homes. Some swept the stone steps outside their doors. Others watered small clay pots filled with herbs and flowers. There was no rush. No loud voices. Only the slow rhythm of an ordinary Roman morning. Cats quietly wandered through narrow alleyways as though they owned the city. A few stopped beside fountains to watch small birds drinking from the clear water before continuing their silent adventures across the rooftops. As the sun climbed higher, its warm light reached the white walls and colorful homes scattered across the hills of Rome. Marble temples reflected the golden glow, while long shadows slowly disappeared from the streets below. This was not the Rome of great battles or grand celebrations. This was the Rome that millions of ordinary people knew every single day, a city of bakers, potters, gardeners, teachers, merchants, and families who simply lived their peaceful lives beneath the same warm Mediterranean sky. And on this quiet morning, the city was only just beginning to wake. As the sun climbed a little higher above the rooftops, the streets of ancient Rome became gently alive. Shopkeepers opened their wooden doors, greeting neighbors with quiet smiles as they prepared for another ordinary day. The marketplace slowly filled with color. Wooden stalls displayed baskets of fresh figs, grapes, apples, olives, and fragrant herbs gathered from the countryside. Clay jars of golden honey caught the morning sunlight, while wheels of cheese rested neatly on wooden tables. A baker carried another tray of warm bread from his oven. The rich aroma drifted through the square, mixing with the scent of rosemary, olive oil, and fresh flowers growing in nearby gardens. Nothing happened quickly. Every merchant moved with calm, practiced hands. There was no need to rush. Customers arrived one by one, exchanging friendly greetings before choosing the day's food. Conversations remained soft and unhurried, blending gently with the peaceful sounds of the city. Near the center of the marketplace, a potter worked quietly at his wheel. The smooth clay turned slowly beneath his hands until it became a simple water jug. Beside him, rows of finished bowls and cups waited in the warm sunshine, each one carefully shaped by hand. Across the square, a carpenter carved delicate patterns into a wooden chest. Tiny curls of fresh wood gathered around his feet while the pleasant scent of cedar drifted into the air. Children walked beside their parents carrying woven baskets. Some paused beside a fountain, watching clear water sparkle as birds fluttered down for a morning drink. The fountain never seemed to rest. Fresh mountain water flowed day and night, filling the air with its gentle, calming sound. It was a familiar melody that every Roman had heard since childhood. Above the city, the sky had become a clear, brilliant blue. White pigeons circled the marble rooftops before settling on sunlit columns, while a light breeze carried the distant ringing of a blacksmith's hammer. Even that sound felt slow and peaceful, never disturbing the quiet rhythm of the morning. The marketplace continued its gentle dance, where every smile, every conversation, and every simple task became part of another beautiful day in ancient Rome. By the middle of the morning, the marketplace had settled into its gentle rhythm. Most of the day's shopping was already finished, and the streets became a little quieter once again. People carried woven baskets back toward their homes, while others continued along the shaded roads leading deeper into the city. The warm Mediterranean sun climbed higher into the sky, but the narrow streets remained pleasantly cool. Tall stone buildings created long patches of shade where neighbors stopped for a few moments to exchange friendly greetings. Small gardens appeared behind low walls. Olive trees stretched their silver-green branches toward the sunlight, while climbing vines covered wooden fences with bright leaves. Clay pots overflowed with lavender, rosemary, and colorful flowers that filled the air with a light, sweet fragrance. A gentle breeze drifted through the gardens, carrying the soft rustle of leaves. Nearby, a gardener carefully watered young plants using a simple clay pitcher. Every movement was slow and patient, as though there was no reason to hurry through such a peaceful morning. Not far away, a narrow stone path led toward one of Rome's public fountains. Clear water poured continuously into a wide marble basin, its surface sparkling beneath the sunlight. Several birds rested along the edge, taking quick drinks before flying into the clear blue sky. A young mother arrived with two children, each carrying a small clay jug. They filled the jars carefully, smiling as the cool water splashed gently against the stone. The sound of flowing water seemed to wash away every worry. Even the air felt cooler beside the fountain. For a few quiet moments, the city seemed to pause. The only sounds were the singing of birds, the whisper of the breeze through nearby trees, and the endless music of fresh water flowing through the heart of ancient Rome. It was an ordinary morning. Yet it was filled with small moments of peace that many people today rarely have the chance to notice. And as the gentle breeze continued to move through the streets, the beautiful city carried on at its own calm and timeless pace. As the morning slowly gave way to noon, the warmth of the sun spread across the rooftops of Rome. The streets remained peaceful, though a little quieter than before. Many people had returned to their homes, while others rested beneath the shade of trees or stone archways. You continued your gentle walk through the city. Ahead, a small public garden welcomed anyone who wished to escape the warmth of the streets. Cypress trees stood tall beside marble pathways, and flowering shrubs added soft colors of white, purple, and red to the peaceful landscape. A long stone bench rested beneath an ancient olive tree. Its branches swayed gently in the afternoon breeze, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow across the ground. Nearby, a gardener trimmed small bushes with slow, careful movements. He paused now and then to admire his work before continuing, never appearing to be in a hurry. A few children quietly played with small wooden toys beneath the trees. Their laughter was gentle, carried away by the breeze before fading into the peaceful afternoon. At the center of the garden stood another beautiful fountain. Cool, clear water flowed from a carved marble bowl into a wide pool below. Tiny ripples spread across the surface as birds landed for a drink before flying away again. You found a quiet place beneath the shade of the olive tree and rested for a while. The cool breeze felt refreshing against your face. Above, white clouds drifted slowly across the deep blue sky. There was nothing you needed to do. Nothing you needed to finish. Only the simple pleasure of watching another peaceful afternoon unfold in one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Time seemed to move differently here. Not measured by clocks, but by the movement of sunlight, the songs of birds, and the gentle flow of water that never seemed to stop. For a little while longer, you simply sat in the shade, listening to the quiet heartbeat of ancient Rome. Part 5. As the afternoon continued, the sun began its slow journey toward the western hills. The bright light softened, covering the city in a warm golden glow that made the marble buildings seem almost to shine. A pleasant breeze drifted through the streets, bringing welcome relief from the day's warmth. You left the quiet garden and followed a narrow stone road that gently climbed one of Rome's famous hills. From the higher ground, the city stretched out before you. Rows of tiled rooftops reached toward the horizon. Tall columns rose proudly above temples and public buildings. Thin trails of smoke curled peacefully from kitchen fires as families prepared the evening meal. Far below, the marketplace had become much quieter than it had been in the morning. Many stalls were already closing for the day. Merchants carefully packed away baskets, folded linen cloths, and wished their neighbors a peaceful evening before beginning to walk home. Along the roadside, a shepherd slowly guided a small flock of sheep through an open field beyond the city walls. The soft ringing of tiny bells around their necks echoed gently across the countryside. Nearby, a pair of oxen pulled a wooden cart filled with freshly harvested grain. Their slow, steady footsteps matched the calm rhythm of the afternoon. Wildflowers covered the edges of the road. Small butterflies drifted from blossom to blossom while bees quietly gathered nectar in the warm sunlight. The air smelled of dry grass, olive trees, and fresh herbs growing on the nearby hillsides. You paused for a moment to admire the peaceful view. Above you, the sky had become a softer shade of blue. The first hints of evening were beginning to appear. Long shadows stretched across the fields, and the city seemed to slow even further, preparing for another quiet night. For a few peaceful moments, nothing moved except the gentle breeze through the trees and the distant birds gliding across the golden sky. Ancient Rome, so often remembered for its great emperors and magnificent monuments, revealed another side of itself, a city filled with quiet afternoons, simple routines, and countless ordinary moments that passed gently from one day to the next. As the afternoon slowly faded, the golden light of the sun softened into rich shades of amber. The busy hours of the day were coming to an end, and the city settled into an even gentler rhythm. Families began returning home along the quiet stone streets. Wooden doors opened as neighbors greeted one another with warm smiles. Some carried baskets filled with fresh vegetables, while others held small loaves of bread wrapped in linen cloth. From open windows came the comforting aroma of simple evening meals. Olive oil warmed in clay pots. Fresh herbs simmered gently in stews. The smell of baked bread mixed with roasted vegetables, filling the streets with a sense of comfort and home. Children finished their games before being called inside by their parents. One by one, the streets became quieter. The sounds of the marketplace disappeared, replaced by the cheerful singing of birds preparing to rest for the night. As you continued walking, you reached a quiet neighborhood where a small fountain stood beneath a tall cypress tree. The water flowed as peacefully as it had at sunrise. Its steady sound seemed unchanged by the passing hours. A gentle breeze rippled across the surface, carrying a few fallen leaves into the clear pool below. Nearby, an elderly man sat on a stone bench, watching the evening light dance across the marble streets. There was no sign of hurry. No feeling that the day had been wasted. Instead, every hour had unfolded naturally, one peaceful moment after another. The sun slowly slipped lower behind the distant hills. Its final rays painted the rooftops with warm shades of gold and orange before fading into the soft blue of approaching evening. Tiny oil lamps began to appear behind windows. Their gentle flames flickered quietly, adding a warm glow to the homes scattered across the city. The first stars slowly appeared above ancient Rome. One after another, they filled the darkening sky. The city grew still. Only the quiet sound of flowing water, the soft evening breeze, and the distant song of crickets remained. It was another ordinary day drawing peacefully to its end, just as countless days had done for generations before. Night settled gently over ancient Rome. The last colors of sunset faded from the sky, leaving behind a deep velvet blue sprinkled with countless stars. A pale moon slowly rose above the rooftops, casting its silver light across the quiet streets. The city looked completely different now. The busy marketplace rested in silence. Wooden stalls stood empty, their canvas covers gently moving in the cool night breeze. The fountains continued to flow without pause, their soft splashing echoing through the peaceful streets. Oil lamps glowed warmly beside doorways and inside small homes. Their gentle light flickered across stone walls, creating soft shadows that danced quietly in the evening air. From somewhere nearby came the faint sound of a family sharing their evening meal. Their voices were calm and cheerful before gradually fading as doors closed for the night. A few neighbors paused outside their homes to admire the clear sky. Without the lights of a modern city, the stars appeared brighter than you had ever seen. The great band of the Milky Way stretched across the heavens like a river of tiny lights. A cool breeze carried the scent of olive trees, fresh herbs, and distant fields beyond the city walls. Everything felt peaceful. Everything felt still. As the evening grew later, even the birds became silent. Only the gentle chorus of crickets filled the warm summer night. The stone streets, so lively only hours before, now belonged to quiet footsteps and the endless sound of flowing water. The moon climbed higher into the sky, bathing temples, gardens, and rooftops in soft silver light. Ancient Rome seemed to be sleeping. Its people rested after another simple day, ready to welcome a new sunrise when morning returned. And beneath the calm night sky, the city remained peaceful, timeless, and wonderfully quiet. Part 8. The night grew deeper, and a gentle stillness settled over every corner of ancient Rome. The moon now stood high above the city, its soft silver light falling across marble temples, quiet courtyards, and narrow stone streets. The rooftops, which had glowed golden beneath the afternoon sun, now shimmered peacefully beneath the stars. The fountains never stopped flowing. Their calm, endless rhythm echoed through the sleeping city, sounding almost like a quiet lullaby carried by the cool night air. A light breeze drifted through the olive trees outside the city walls. Their leaves whispered softly, joining the distant song of crickets hidden among the grass. Most windows had gone dark. The small oil lamps that had welcomed the evening were slowly extinguished, one after another, until only the moonlight remained. The marketplace rested in complete silence. The baskets had been emptied. The wooden stalls stood quietly beneath the stars, waiting for another peaceful morning. Even the city's cats had found warm places to sleep, curled beside garden walls or tucked safely beneath wooden porches. Far above, countless stars stretched across the clear sky, brighter than anyone in the modern world could imagine. Without electric lights, the heavens appeared endless, filled with quiet beauty. Time seemed to stand still. There was nothing to disturb the peaceful night. No engines. No bright signs. Only the gentle sound of water, the whisper of the wind, and the calm breathing of a city asleep. Before long, the eastern horizon would slowly brighten once again. Another ordinary day would begin. The baker would light his oven before sunrise. The fountains would continue their endless song. Merchants would open their shops. Children would laugh in the streets. Gardeners would care for their flowers. Life would quietly continue, just as it had for generations. And although nearly 2,000 years have passed since those peaceful evenings, it is comforting to imagine that somewhere beneath the same stars, ordinary people once ended their days with the same simple hopes: for a good meal, a safe home, kind neighbors, and a restful night's sleep. As the moon watched over the silent rooftops of ancient Rome, the city drifted peacefully through the night, waiting patiently for the first light of another beautiful dawn. The city remained peaceful as evening settled into night. A small wooden door opened quietly, and warm light from an oil lamp spilled onto the stone street for just a moment before the door gently closed again. Inside the home, everything felt simple and comfortable. The walls were covered with smooth white plaster, reflecting the soft golden glow of the lamp. A wooden table stood in the center of the room, surrounded by a few sturdy chairs that had been carefully made by local craftsmen many years before. Shelves held clay bowls, small cups, woven baskets, and neatly folded linen cloths. Nothing was expensive. Nothing was unnecessary. Every object had a purpose. Near one corner of the room, a clay jar filled with fresh water stood beside several smaller jars containing olive oil, dried herbs, and grain collected from nearby farms. The evening meal had already been prepared. Fresh bread rested inside a woven basket, still carrying the gentle aroma of the morning's baking. A small dish of olives sat beside a piece of soft white cheese, while a simple vegetable stew slowly cooled inside a clay pot. The meal was modest. Yet it was more than enough. A family gathered around the wooden table. They spoke quietly about the events of the day. A visit to the marketplace. The pleasant weather. The flowers beginning to bloom in the garden. Nothing extraordinary had happened. And perhaps that was exactly what made the day so peaceful. Outside, the streets grew even quieter. The sound of footsteps became rare. Only the steady music of flowing fountains drifted through the open window. The cool evening breeze carried the scent of lavender and rosemary from nearby gardens. The small oil lamp flickered gently. Its warm light danced across the walls while long shadows slowly shifted with every movement of the flame. Above the city, the stars continued to shine brightly. The moon climbed a little higher into the sky, watching silently over homes, gardens, temples, and quiet streets that had finally come to rest. Inside the little house, the peaceful evening came to a close. The dishes were carefully washed. The lamp was turned down until only a small flame remained. Tomorrow would bring another ordinary day. Another sunrise. Another walk through the quiet streets of ancient Rome. But for now, the city rested peacefully beneath the stars, wrapped in the calm silence of the ancient night. The night air had grown cooler, and a gentle breeze drifted through the open courtyard of the house. Above, the stars shone with remarkable clarity, untouched by the glow of electric lights that would not exist for many centuries. The family lingered outside for a little while before sleep. The courtyard was small but peaceful. A single olive tree stood in one corner, its silver-green leaves whispering softly whenever the breeze passed through. Beneath it rested a simple wooden bench, worn smooth after many years of quiet evenings. A clay fountain trickled gently nearby. Its steady rhythm filled the silence, blending with the distant chorus of crickets beyond the city walls. The youngest members of the family looked up at the stars with quiet wonder. An older relative pointed toward the brightest constellations, sharing stories that had been passed from one generation to the next. These stories were familiar, comforting, and repeated so often that everyone knew them by heart. No one hurried to go inside. The evening itself was something to be enjoyed. The warm air still carried the faint scent of fresh bread from the neighborhood bakery, mixed with the fragrance of jasmine and rosemary growing in nearby gardens. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked only once before silence returned. A pair of owls called softly from trees outside the city, their voices echoing across the quiet countryside. The streets beyond the house were almost empty now. Only a few late travelers walked home beneath the moonlight, their footsteps slow and unhurried upon the ancient stone roads. The city's fountains continued their endless journey, sending cool mountain water through Rome just as they had done throughout the day. It was easy to imagine that tomorrow would begin exactly the same way. Before sunrise, bakers would light their ovens. Gardeners would water their flowers. Merchants would carefully arrange their goods. Children would carry clay jars to the fountains. Life would continue in its calm and familiar rhythm. For the people of ancient Rome, there was comfort in these daily routines. Each day gently resembled the one before it. Each evening ended beneath the same moon. Each morning welcomed the same golden sunrise. As the hour grew later, the family quietly returned indoors. The wooden door closed softly behind them. One by one, the oil lamps were extinguished until only the pale moonlight remained, shining peacefully across the rooftops of the sleeping city. Part 11. Long after the city had fallen asleep, ancient Rome rested beneath a sky filled with countless stars. The streets were almost completely silent. Only the gentle sound of water flowing through the fountains could be heard, echoing softly between the marble buildings. It was a peaceful sound that never truly stopped, day or night, season after season. A cool breeze wandered through the narrow streets, brushing against wooden doors and climbing ivy that covered old stone walls. The leaves moved gently, creating a quiet whisper that blended with the distant singing of crickets. The moonlight covered the rooftops in a soft silver glow. Marble columns cast long shadows across empty courtyards, while quiet gardens rested beneath the branches of olive and cypress trees. Everything seemed perfectly still. Beyond the city walls, the countryside stretched peacefully into the darkness. Small farms lay silent beneath the stars. Fields of wheat moved gently in the night breeze like waves upon a calm sea. A shepherd's cottage showed a single warm light through its tiny window before that light, too, slowly disappeared. Far away, an owl called from the top of an ancient tree. For a brief moment, another owl answered from somewhere across the valley. Then silence returned. The roads leading into Rome were empty now. The travelers who had arrived before sunset were safely resting inside inns or family homes. Their horses slept quietly in nearby stables after long journeys beneath the Mediterranean sun. Inside the city, every home had become peaceful. Oil lamps had burned low. Clay dishes had been cleaned and carefully placed back onto wooden shelves. Children dreamed peacefully beneath warm wool blankets. Parents rested after another ordinary day filled with simple work and quiet moments. Tomorrow would bring familiar routines once again. The baker would knead fresh dough before dawn. The potter would shape another clay vessel. The gardener would water flowers before the sun grew warm. The fountain would continue singing its endless song. Nothing extraordinary needed to happen. Life itself was enough. And beneath the same stars that still shine over the world today, ancient Rome slept peacefully, waiting for another gentle sunrise to begin a brand new day. Very slowly, the long night began to soften. Far beyond the eastern hills, the darkness gave way to the faintest shade of blue. The stars still filled the sky, but one by one they quietly faded as a new day approached. A cool morning mist settled over the rooftops and gardens of ancient Rome. The marble streets, empty only moments before, waited peacefully for the first footsteps of the day. The fountains continued their endless flow, just as they had throughout the night. Their gentle music welcomed the coming dawn, filling the quiet city with a familiar sense of calm. Soon, the first birds began to sing. Their soft voices echoed from rooftops, olive trees, and the high branches of cypress trees standing beyond the city walls. A baker quietly opened the door to his workshop. Inside, yesterday's fire had almost faded, leaving only a few glowing embers beneath the clay oven. With calm and practiced hands, he added fresh pieces of wood until a gentle flame slowly returned. The warm smell of burning oak drifted into the cool morning air. Not far away, a gardener stepped into a small courtyard carrying a clay pitcher filled with fresh water. He carefully watered herbs and flowers that had rested through the night, smiling as tiny drops of water sparkled like jewels in the first light of dawn. A woman opened her wooden shutters and looked toward the brightening sky. Fresh morning air entered her home, carrying the peaceful sounds of birds, flowing water, and distant footsteps from neighbors beginning another ordinary day. Nothing had changed. And yet everything felt wonderfully new. The city awakened just as it always had. Slowly. Quietly. Patiently. The same stone streets. The same friendly faces. The same gentle rhythm of daily life. For the people of ancient Rome, there was comfort in this familiar routine. Every sunrise offered another chance to enjoy simple pleasures, a warm loaf of bread, cool water from the fountain, kind words shared with neighbors, and peaceful evenings beneath a sky full of stars. As the golden sun finally rose above the distant hills, its warm light spread across the rooftops, gardens, temples, and quiet streets once more. Another beautiful day had begun. And for a little while, it felt as though time itself had chosen to move just a little more slowly in the peaceful heart of ancient Rome. As the morning unfolded once again, the city welcomed another calm and ordinary day. The early sunlight reached the highest rooftops first before slowly spilling into the narrow streets below. Windows opened one after another, and fresh morning air filled homes that had rested peacefully through the night. A small flock of pigeons landed beside a marble fountain, drinking from the cool water before taking flight together. Their wings created a gentle flutter that quickly faded into the quiet sounds of the waking city. Outside a nearby bakery, the first warm loaves of the day were placed onto wooden shelves. Steam rose softly into the crisp morning air, carrying the comforting aroma of fresh bread through the neighborhood. People appeared gradually. A woman carried a woven basket toward the marketplace. An old man paused beneath an olive tree to enjoy the warmth of the morning sun. Two children laughed quietly as they followed their father along the stone road, each carrying a small clay jug to collect fresh water. Nothing felt rushed. The city moved with the same gentle rhythm it had followed for generations. In a shaded courtyard, a potter began shaping another simple bowl. His hands worked slowly, pressing and smoothing the soft clay while the wheel turned steadily beneath his fingers. Nearby, a weaver sat beside an open doorway, guiding colorful threads across a wooden loom. The steady movement of the loom created a quiet rhythm that blended peacefully with birdsong and flowing water. The fragrance of rosemary, lavender, and blooming flowers drifted through the warm air. A light breeze carried the scent across gardens and quiet streets, making the morning feel even more peaceful. Above the city, the sky was bright and clear. The sunlight reflected from marble columns and white stone walls, giving everything a soft golden glow. It was not a day that would be remembered by history. No great celebration filled the streets. No emperor passed through the city. No victory was announced. It was simply another beautiful day lived by ordinary people. And perhaps those ordinary days were the true heart of ancient Rome. They were filled with kind greetings, honest work, quiet moments of rest, and simple joys that asked for nothing more than the passing of another peaceful sunrise. Part 14. As the hours passed, the morning slowly gave way to a peaceful afternoon. The sun climbed higher above the city, filling the streets with warm golden light. Even so, the narrow lanes remained pleasantly cool, protected by tall stone buildings that had stood for generations. Many families returned home for the midday meal. Wooden doors opened and closed quietly as the inviting aroma of freshly baked bread, lentils, herbs, and olive oil drifted into the streets. Simple meals were shared around wooden tables, accompanied by quiet conversation and grateful smiles. After lunch, the city became noticeably calmer. Some shopkeepers rested in the shade outside their stores. Others sat beneath covered walkways, enjoying the gentle breeze while watching the world move slowly around them. In a nearby courtyard, an elderly woman carefully spun wool into fine thread. The spinning wheel turned with a soft, steady rhythm that seemed perfectly suited to the peaceful afternoon. A few streets away, a teacher sat beneath the shade of a fig tree with several young students. They practiced reading from wax tablets, repeating each lesson patiently without hurry. The sound of their quiet voices blended gently with birds singing high above the rooftops. At the edge of the city, farmers guided donkeys carrying baskets filled with vegetables freshly gathered from nearby fields. They greeted familiar faces with warm smiles before continuing toward the marketplace. Nothing felt urgent. The afternoon moved slowly, inviting everyone to enjoy each passing moment. The fountains continued their endless song. The breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through quiet gardens. Above, white clouds drifted lazily across the bright blue sky. For the people of ancient Rome, this peaceful rhythm was simply everyday life. And perhaps that was its greatest treasure, not grand monuments or famous victories, but countless ordinary afternoons filled with calm, kindness, and the quiet beauty of simple living. As the afternoon slowly came to an end, the bright sunlight softened into the rich golden colors of early evening. Long shadows stretched across the stone streets, and the heat of the day slowly faded into a pleasant warmth. A cool breeze drifted through the city, gently moving the leaves of olive trees and the flowering vines that climbed the old walls. The marketplace, so lively only a few hours earlier, began to grow quiet once again. Merchants carefully packed away their goods. Wooden crates were stacked neatly beside empty stalls. The last baskets of figs, grapes, and olives were carried home, while the familiar scent of herbs still lingered in the evening air. One by one, shopkeepers wished each other a peaceful evening before closing their doors. Children made their way home, laughing softly as they walked beside their parents. Some carried fresh bread tucked beneath their arms, while others proudly held small bundles of flowers gathered along the roadside. Near one of the fountains, an old man remained seated on a smooth stone bench. He watched the sunlight dance across the flowing water, just as he had done countless evenings before. There was no reason to hurry home. The evening itself was something to enjoy. High above the city, swallows circled through the sky before returning to their nests beneath the rooftops. Their graceful flight marked the quiet end of another beautiful day. The first oil lamps slowly appeared behind open windows. Their gentle glow spread through homes as families gathered for their evening meals. The comforting smell of warm soup, fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and fragrant herbs filled the narrow streets. Soon, conversations became softer. Doors closed gently. The sounds of the city slowly faded. Only the fountains continued their endless song, flowing just as peacefully as they had at sunrise. As the sky turned from gold to deep blue, the first evening star appeared above the distant hills. Another calm day in ancient Rome had quietly reached its end. Tomorrow would bring another sunrise, another walk through peaceful streets, and another ordinary day filled with simple moments that, together, made life feel wonderfully complete. As evening faded into night once more, ancient Rome became quieter than ever. The last colors of sunset disappeared beyond the western hills, leaving a sky filled with countless stars. The moon rose slowly, bathing the city in a gentle silver light that rested upon rooftops, marble temples, quiet gardens, and empty streets. The fountains continued to flow without interruption. Their calm rhythm echoed softly through the sleeping neighborhoods, just as it had for generations. It was a sound so familiar that few people noticed it anymore, yet without it, the city would have felt strangely empty. A cool breeze wandered through the narrow streets. It carried the fresh scent of olive trees, cypress leaves, and distant fields beyond the city walls. Somewhere nearby, an owl called gently into the darkness before silence returned once again. Most homes had already gone dark. Only a few small oil lamps still glowed behind wooden shutters, their warm light flickering quietly before slowly fading away. The city rested. Not because the world had stopped, but because tomorrow would arrive soon enough. There was comfort in knowing that another peaceful morning would come. The baker would once again light his oven before sunrise. Fresh bread would fill the streets with its warm aroma. The fountains would continue their endless song. Merchants would greet familiar faces in the marketplace. Children would laugh beside the cool marble fountains. Gardeners would tend their flowers beneath the Mediterranean sun. Life would continue as it always had, slowly, peacefully, and without unnecessary haste. The stars stretched endlessly across the night sky, watching over the sleeping city just as they had watched over countless generations before. Many centuries would pass. Empires would rise and fall. Buildings would change. New roads would be built. The world itself would become almost unrecognizable. Yet the quiet beauty of an ordinary day, the comfort of sharing bread, listening to flowing water, walking beneath olive trees, and watching the stars appear at night, would remain timeless. And so, beneath the peaceful Roman sky, the city slept in perfect stillness, waiting patiently for another sunrise and another gentle day to begin. Before the first hint of dawn appeared, the city rested in complete silence. The streets that had welcomed thousands of footsteps during the day were now empty. Moonlight rested gently on the smooth stones, giving every road a soft silver glow. A faint mist gathered over the gardens and open courtyards. Tiny drops of dew settled on lavender blossoms, olive leaves, and the petals of wildflowers growing beside quiet homes. The cool night air felt fresh, carrying the earthy scent of stone, grass, and distant pine trees. Near one of the city's fountains, the water continued its endless journey. Each drop fell into the marble basin with the same peaceful rhythm it had followed for years. There was no beginning and no end to its gentle song. Beyond the city walls, the countryside slept beneath a blanket of stars. Rows of olive trees stretched across the hillsides, their branches barely moving in the light breeze. Vineyards rested quietly, waiting for another warm day beneath the Mediterranean sun. A shepherd's flock lay peacefully in an open field, while a faithful dog watched over them without making a sound. Far away, a rooster gave the first quiet call of the coming morning. The eastern horizon slowly changed from deep black to a faint shade of blue. Night was beginning to loosen its gentle hold on the city. Inside the homes of ancient Rome, families still slept peacefully beneath wool blankets. Oil lamps had burned out hours earlier. Clay kitchens were quiet. Wooden tables stood neatly arranged for another day that had not yet begun. For a few precious moments, the city belonged only to the breeze, the stars, the fountains, and the first birds preparing to welcome the sunrise. It was the calmest hour of the entire day. A moment so peaceful that it seemed the whole world had paused to breathe before morning gently returned once again. Slowly, almost without notice, the first light of a new day touched the eastern horizon. The stars began to fade, one by one, until only the brightest remained. A soft ribbon of pale gold spread across the sky, bringing gentle warmth to the rooftops of ancient Rome. The city awakened just as it always had, quietly and without haste. The fountains continued their endless song, sounding as fresh in the morning as they had during the night. Birds gathered on the edges of marble basins, taking small drinks before lifting gracefully into the brightening sky. A baker unlocked his wooden door and stepped into the cool morning air. He smiled as he breathed in the scent of another peaceful dawn before preparing the day's first loaves of bread. Nearby, a woman swept the stone path outside her home with slow, steady strokes. She paused for a moment to admire the sunrise, watching the golden light spread across the city before continuing her morning routine. From an open window came the gentle sound of someone humming a familiar tune while preparing breakfast. Another family opened their shutters, welcoming fresh air into their home. A gardener knelt beside a bed of herbs, brushing tiny drops of dew from fragrant rosemary and mint. The plants glistened in the early sunlight, filling the courtyard with a fresh, calming scent. Soon, the streets welcomed their first footsteps. Neighbors greeted one another with warm smiles. A potter opened his workshop. A merchant arranged baskets outside his shop. Children walked beside their parents, carrying empty clay jars toward the nearest fountain. It was another ordinary morning. Another peaceful beginning. Nothing remarkable would be written about this day in the history books. No great speeches would be remembered. No famous victories would be celebrated. And yet, for the people who called ancient Rome home, this simple morning was a gift. It was filled with fresh bread, clear water, kind neighbors, gentle work, and the quiet promise of another beautiful day beneath the Mediterranean sky. As the sun climbed higher, its warm light covered the city once more, just as it had done countless times before. And so, the peaceful rhythm of ancient Rome continued. Steady, timeless, and wonderfully calm, inviting every new day to begin with quiet hope and simple joy. As the morning settled into its familiar rhythm, life flowed gently through the streets of ancient Rome once again. The city did not awaken all at once. Instead, it unfolded little by little, like the opening petals of a flower greeting the sun. A merchant rolled open the canvas covering his small stall and carefully arranged jars of fragrant olive oil in neat rows. Nearby, baskets of fresh grapes, ripe figs, and bright green herbs caught the warm morning light. A cobbler sat outside his workshop, polishing a pair of leather sandals. His work was slow and careful, every stitch placed with patience earned through many years of practice. Across the street, the blacksmith had already lit his forge. The sound of his hammer echoed softly through the neighborhood, not loud or hurried, but steady, like the heartbeat of the city itself. A woman carrying a woven basket stopped to speak with an elderly neighbor sitting in the shade of a vine-covered wall. They smiled warmly, exchanged a few quiet words, and wished each other a pleasant day before continuing on their way. In a nearby courtyard, doves fluttered down to peck at scattered grains. Their feathers shimmered softly in the sunlight before they lifted together into the clear blue sky. The scent of fresh bread still lingered in the air, joined now by the aroma of herbs drying beneath the sun and flowers blooming in carefully tended gardens. Everything felt familiar. Every face seemed to know another. Every street carried memories of countless ordinary days that had come before. You wandered slowly beneath the stone archways, where patches of cool shade offered a welcome escape from the growing warmth of the day. A gentle breeze passed through the narrow streets, rustling the leaves of nearby olive trees and carrying the quiet sound of flowing water from a distant fountain. There was no destination waiting for you. No schedule to follow. Only another peaceful morning to enjoy, one quiet step at a time. And in that simple rhythm, walking, listening, breathing, and watching, you began to understand why the ordinary moments of ancient Rome were every bit as remarkable as the grand events remembered by history. Sometimes, the greatest stories are simply the peaceful days that pass without anyone noticing, leaving behind nothing but calm memories beneath an endless blue sky. By late morning, the warm sunlight rested gently over the rooftops of ancient Rome. The city had fully awakened, yet it still moved with a calm and unhurried rhythm that seemed untouched by time. The narrow streets were filled with quiet life. A farmer arrived through one of the city gates with a small wooden cart pulled by a patient donkey. The cart held baskets of fresh vegetables, bundles of herbs, and a few jars of fragrant honey collected from the countryside. Nearby, a fish seller carefully arranged his morning catch on a bed of cool, damp reeds, while another merchant displayed colorful fabrics that swayed gently in the breeze. No one called out loudly. Customers stopped to look, exchanged friendly greetings, and continued on their way at an easy pace. In the shade of a marble colonnade, a storyteller gathered a few children around him. He spoke softly, sharing old tales of brave sailors, distant islands, and mysterious stars that guided travelers across the sea. The children listened with wide eyes, imagining worlds far beyond the city walls. Not far away, a fountain sparkled beneath the bright sky. A young boy carefully floated a small leaf on the surface of the water and watched it drift slowly around the basin. His laughter was quiet and gentle, carried away by the breeze before disappearing into the peaceful sounds of the city. The smell of warm bread had now mixed with the fragrance of blooming roses climbing over nearby garden walls. Bees moved lazily from flower to flower, while butterflies danced through the sunlight without any hurry at all. High above, swallows glided effortlessly across the clear blue sky. Their graceful circles cast tiny shadows over the stone streets below before they disappeared toward the distant hills. The hours passed almost unnoticed. Nothing extraordinary happened. Yet every ordinary moment carried its own quiet beauty. The gentle conversations between neighbors. The steady footsteps along ancient roads. The cool touch of fountain water. The warm sunlight on old stone walls. These simple moments were the true rhythm of ancient Rome. A rhythm that had continued for generations and would continue long after another peaceful day had come to an end. The city asked for nothing more than patience. And in return, it offered something precious that is often difficult to find, a deep and lasting sense of peace. As the sun slowly moved toward the middle of the sky, a gentle warmth settled over ancient Rome. The busiest hours of the morning had passed. The streets became quieter once again as many families returned home to prepare the midday meal. Wooden shutters remained open to welcome the soft breeze that wandered through every neighborhood. Linen curtains moved gently in the air, while the scent of herbs and freshly baked bread drifted from one home to the next. In a shaded courtyard, an elderly woman carefully watered a row of clay pots filled with basil, mint, and rosemary. Tiny drops of water sparkled in the sunlight before disappearing into the rich, dark soil. Nearby, a young apprentice learned the art of carving marble from his teacher. The master craftsman worked slowly, showing each careful movement of the chisel. There was no impatience in his voice, only quiet encouragement and years of experience shared one lesson at a time. Across the street, a flock of white doves gathered around scattered grains left by a kind neighbor. Their gentle coos blended with the distant splash of a nearby fountain. The city seemed to breathe peacefully. Even the breeze moved slowly between the marble columns, carrying the cool scent of flowing water through the warm afternoon air. Outside the city walls, vineyards stretched across rolling hills, their green leaves shimmering beneath the bright Mediterranean sun. Farmers paused beneath the shade of olive trees to enjoy a simple meal of bread, cheese, olives, and fresh fruit before returning to their work. Back inside the city, the marketplace rested for a while. Many merchants sat beneath cloth awnings, talking quietly with friends while sipping cool water from clay cups. Others simply watched people pass by, content to enjoy the peaceful afternoon. A pair of children chased colorful butterflies through a small public garden until they stopped beneath a large fig tree to rest in its cool shade. The leaves above rustled softly, creating a gentle melody that seemed to slow time itself. Nothing in ancient Rome appeared to hurry. Each hour arrived gently. Each moment quietly gave way to the next. And beneath the warm afternoon sun, the city continued its timeless rhythm, reminding everyone that even the simplest day could be filled with quiet beauty, gentle work, and peaceful contentment. Part 22. The afternoon sun slowly softened, covering ancient Rome in a warm golden glow. The busiest hours of the day had passed, and the streets became peaceful once again. A gentle breeze drifted through the city, carrying the scent of olive trees, fresh bread, and blooming flowers. Near a quiet fountain, clear water flowed endlessly into a marble basin. Birds landed for a quick drink before flying back into the bright blue sky. An elderly potter sat outside his workshop, shaping a simple clay bowl with calm, steady hands. Nearby, a carpenter carefully polished a wooden chair while humming a quiet tune. Children gathered beneath the shade of an olive tree, playing simple games with smooth stones. Their laughter rose softly into the warm afternoon air before fading into peaceful silence. Merchants rested beside their stalls, talking quietly with neighbors as they waited for the last visitors of the day. Nothing felt hurried. Nothing felt stressful. The city moved at its own gentle pace, where even the smallest moments seemed worth enjoying. As the afternoon slowly slipped toward evening, long shadows stretched across the ancient streets, and the warm sunlight painted the marble buildings with beautiful shades of gold. Another calm day in ancient Rome continued, one peaceful moment at a time.